Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling some really foundational stuff. We've got these sources, dense, fascinating, all about, well, the ultimate reality, power, divine design.
Yeah, our mission today is to really get into this concept that everything, all the glory, ownership, destiny, it all belongs entirely to one sovereign creator. And this isn't just, abstract theory. The sources argue it shapes everything, the universe, our choices, even surprisingly, the role of evil. It's like the blueprint for existence itself. It really is. And we should definitely stress, this material is dense. It's drawing heavily on scriptural ideas, but synthesizing them. It's not just telling you what happened, but digging into the why behind the structure of it all. The core connection they keep making is between this absolute ownership, divine foreknowledge, and ultimately grace.
Yeah.
It's quite a framework.
Okay, let's dive in then. The starting point, the absolute foundation, is this massive claim. The creator owns literally everything. How deep does that ownership go according to these sources? #I, the extent of ultimate sovereignty and ownership. So looking at the texts, especially those echoing David's words, it's just, wow, all grandeur, power, glory, victory, majesty, it all belongs to the creator. But what does all really encompass here? Is it just like cosmic real estate?
Oh, it's way beyond that. It's not like human property law at all.
Yeah.
The sources define it comprehensively. It includes the metaphysical stuff too, grandeur, power, glory itself. These aren't things creatures generate. They belong inherently to the creator.
Yeah.
And yeah, time, space, every single creature within them, they're described as the creator's sole property.
So if victory itself is owned, then any victory a person achieves is just borrowed.
Kind of like that, yeah. Or maybe a reflection. The sources imply you can't independently create glory or victory. It's allocated or reflected from the original source.
Which means human status, wealth, power. It's like an allowance, basically. We're playing with borrowed toys.
That's exactly the picture they paint. Wealth and honor, they state, come directly from the creator. It's explicitly, the creator rules over all, and the power to make anyone great or strong. It rests entirely in that divine hand.
So the whole structure seems designed to prevent anyone from thinking they achieved it all on their own?
Precisely. Everything is allocated, it's sustained, and crucially, it can be revoked by the owner. No ultimate credit goes to the creature.
This idea of absolute ownership inevitably shrinks human significance, doesn't it? Which brings us to those really striking passages in Isaiah 40 about the scale difference.
Right, and this part feels designed to be, well, humbling. It forces you to confront the vast difference between creator and created. The sources say entire nations, think about the huge empires, Babylon, Rome, even modern superpowers are like.
Like what?
Like a drop of water in a bucket. Or get this, a tiny dust particle on a scale.
Wow, a dust particle. That really hits hard today, We build massive things, global networks, we feel pretty significant, but the sources just wave it away as cosmic dust.
Exactly. It undercuts any sense of human hubris, especially technological pride. We think we control things, but from that perspective, our biggest geopolitical struggles are just tiny, fleeting disturbances. And the imagery continues. The creator is enthroned above the circle of the earth, and what are we? We're likened to grasshoppers or locusts.
Grasshoppers. That implies smallness, sure, but also fragility, right? Easily swept away. And it seems this applies especially to the ones who think they're most secure.
Oh, definitely. It takes direct aim at the powerful. Rulers, princes, judges, the sources say they're ultimately rendered pointless, vain, insignificant. The image used is really stark.
What is it?
They're compared to plants that have barely put down roots, just barely started. And then a divine breath comes, dries them up instantly, and they're blown away like chaff in the wind.
So their power structures just collapse, not even necessarily through direct conflict, just the sustaining energy is withdrawn.
Exactly. It's inherent fragility.
Okay, but if we're just grasshoppers and rulers are like temporary plants, why sustain creation at all? Why the investment? The sources link this back to the second deity, don't they?
Yes, and this is absolutely crucial. It pivots the whole thing. The reason creatures have any ultimate meaning isn't inherent in them. It's because the creator chose to love them, and crucially, chose to give up everything for them, which is embodied in the suffering of the second deity. So meaning isn't earned by the creature. It's like projected onto them by the creator's choice and actions. We only gain significance through that relationship with the sun. It shifts the focus entirely away from human achievement.
So life becomes less about finding inherent worth and more about responding to a worth that's been given. Okay. This dependency, this need for the creator to sustain everything, it leads to this idea of command and dependency as the basic structure.
It's the absolute bedrock. Time and space are sustained. the sources argue, specifically so creatures can only find genuine happiness and function properly within the Creator's commands. It's not arbitrary rules, it's like the operating manual for reality. If you deviate from what makes things work, including happiness.
And they use a really simple, everyday example for this dependency, right? Something everyone experiences.
Yeah, hunger. The simple fact that if you don't eat, you get hungry. Seems obvious, right? Well, the wicked, they sort of take the baseline grace for granted. They experience lack and blame the Creator. But they forget, the sources say, that the Creator provides the essentials rain and sun to everyone, righteous and wicked alike. That basic provision is universal.
So the rain and sun are like this mandatory baseline grace.
Exactly. It's provided regardless of your moral choices. The wicked just ignore the sun or take it as a given. The grateful recognize even that baseline as a gift that doesn't have to be there.
So the choice isn't about getting the sun, it's about acknowledging the source of the sun. That's the key moral differentiator.
Precisely. It makes gratitude, or the lack of it, incredibly central. If you're given life, breath, sustenance through these natural cycles which are all sustained by the Creator, then failing to acknowledge that source becomes the fundamental error, the root of foolishness, in their view. Hashtag #10 foreknowledge, preordained roles, and the use of free choice.
Okay, so we have absolute ownership, total dependency. Now we get into the really tricky part. The structure of destiny, foreknowledge, and free will. And the key example is the fall of Halal, or Lucifer. The sources use the King of Tyre story to talk about this, right?
Yes, Ezekiel provides this incredible picture. Halal's original design, it's described as a perfect seal that suggests, flawless completion, authenticity, full of wisdom, perfect beauty. And get this detail, adorned with 9 types of precious stones, ruby, topaz, diamond, and so on. All this emphasizes not just status, but this incredible, almost overwhelming glory, maybe the peak of created beauty.
And his job, his intended role was very specific, not just general authority.
Right, it wasn't military or administrative. It was focused squarely on worship, leading the celestial worship, actually. The sources mentioned tabrets and pipes prepared for him from his creation day.
Instrument.
Exactly. Implying worship was the absolute highest, most valuable activity in that realm, and he was created to lead it. The conductor, essentially.
And his rank reflected that. He wasn't just one of the choir.
Definitely not. He's called an anointed covering cherub. Now, cherubim are often linked with guarding the divine presence, a covering cherub. That implies immediate proximity, immense authority, maybe even shielding or presiding over the very throne area. It suggests top-tier rank in the angelic hierarchy.
So the absolute pinnacle of created beings in terms of beauty, role, and rank, perfect setup. But then the rebellion happens. Now, if the Creator is all-knowing, this couldn't have been a surprise, surely. This is where the paradox really bites.
It really does. And the sources confront it directly. They state plainly. The Creator knew Halal would rebel before creation even began. It wasn't a prediction based on observation. It was known beforehand as part of the Creator's inherent omniscience.
Okay, but if you know your star creation is going to rebel and cause chaos, why go through with it? Why build the system that allows for that fall? Was the fall somehow necessary?
Well, necessary might be tricky, but the sources suggest it was foreseen and utilized. The Creator didn't cause the fall, but decided to strategically use Halal's foreseen rebellion, which stemmed from genuine free will, as a means to, and this is the phrase they use, complete creation.
Complete creation? How does rebellion complete anything?
The implication seems to be that the full completion required the demonstration of creaturely free will in all its possibilities, both choosing alignment and choosing rejection. If Halal hadn't fallen, the sources hint the Creator would have found another way to complete the free will of creatures. But that element of free choice, including the choice to rebel, was somehow integral to the final design.
That's mind-bending. It suggests rebellion isn't a system failure, but an anticipated element factored into the grand equation from the start, which makes all of history feel structured.
That's exactly where it leads. It sets up the structure of history itself. The Creator determines when and where everyone is born, and then uses all their free choices, the good ones, the bad ones, the rebellious ones, to ultimately bring about the pre-planned divine will. They cite Pharaoh, for example, raised up specifically so divine power could be shown through his resistance. Every choice, freely made in the moment, was apparently already known and woven into the final tapestry before time began.
Okay, if even the rebellion of a being like Halal is accounted for, then human pride must seem like small potatoes in the grand scheme. Which brings us neatly to Nebuchadnezzar, the human case study in forgetting who's boss.
Oh, Nebuchadnezzar's the classic example. The sources pinpoint the moment of his ultimate transgression. He's looking over Babylon, his amazing city, and he says, well, he basically takes full credit.
What exactly did he say?
He boasted that his great power and his mighty strength built this city to display his glorious majesty. He claimed ownership of the results, forgetting the source of the power and strength itself.
And the reaction wasn't delayed, was it?
Instantaneous. Underscores the point perfectly. While the words were still in his mouth, a voice from heaven booms out. Kingdom stripped away. Until when? Until he learns the fundamental truth. The Most High rules the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he wills.
So his power, even his sanity, was just switched off.
Exactly. Demonstrating that the very capacity to rule, think, build it wasn't intrinsically his. It was dependent, moment by moment.
And the sources have a simple label for him after this.
Yes, he's called a fool. And the reason is profound. Because he didn't realize the being sustaining his very life, giving him the breath to boast, was right there listening. It highlights this constant pervasive sovereignty. Nothing escapes it.
All right, so we have this framework. Absolute ownership, total dependency, and even rebellion is factored in. This cosmic situation seems to demand some kind of restoration, which leads us straight to the second deity, the Messiah. The sources stress he's the co-creator, right? Everything made through him. But the path to fixing things involves this almost unbelievable act of surrender.
Voluntary surrender, yes. That's the absolute linchpin, theologically and, you could say, legally within this framework. Even though he was essentially divine, equal with the Creator, the sources emphasize he did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, like a possession to cling to. Instead, he deliberately emptied himself, took the form of a servant, actually became a creature.
That's the part that's hard to wrap your head around, the co-creator becoming part of the creation, a massive voluntary divestment.
A total divestment of that inherent status, yes. By becoming a creature, he voluntarily stepped out of that position of ultimate inherent ownership of time and space. He gave it up.
But why? Why give it up just to get it back? If he was already the co-creator, why this detour through being human?
The sources suggest it was to validate the whole system from the inside. By becoming a creature and living perfectly within the Creator structure, he could then re-inherit that ownership from the Father, but this time as the Son, as a triumphant creature. It proves the system works, that the Creator's standard is just and achievable, even for a creature, albeit a unique one. He sort of throws away the keys of death and Hades' ultimate control, only to rightfully regain them through perfect obedience as a creature. It demonstrates the path.
And that path of perfect obedience leads directly to the cross. The sources present the cross not just as, a sacrifice out of love, but as proof of both love and justice. How do they balance those two?
It's presented as the ultimate piece of cosmic evidence, doing multiple things at once. Yes, it's the ultimate display of love, the Creator figure dying for rebellious creatures. But it's also the ultimate proof of justice. How? Because through the cross, everyone witnesses the Creator's standard, the divine law, being perfectly kept by the Son in human form. It shows the law isn't arbitrary or impossible. It can be fulfilled. Its justice is upheld by the highest authorities submitting to it.
So the law isn't compromised or set aside. It's validated by being perfectly met.
Exactly. And there's a crucial consequence to this. It impacts how creatures view the Creator's rule later on. By witnessing this ultimate act of loving submission, creatures are inspired, the sources suggest, to willingly submit to that same law. So when the time comes for final judgment, when sinners are condemned or death itself is destroyed, those who understand the cross won't be able to claim the Creator is unfair or unloving. The sacrifice becomes the irrefutable proof that even judgment flows from love and justice combined.
This focus on validation and proof seems to lead to a really interesting, maybe even controversial take on the Messiah's miracles during his life. We usually think of the miracles as the primary proof of his divinity, but the sources seem to downplay their uniqueness.
That is definitely one of the most counterintuitive points. The raw power itself, healing people, casting out demons, controlling nature. The sources argue this was not the uniquely identifying factor of the Messiah.
Wait, really? So others could do it?
They suggest that yes, the first Adam, before the fall, potentially had similar abilities. The disciples later performed miracles. The sources even imply that any human being living in perfect alignment with the Creator, free from sin, could theoretically perform the same or even greater works. The power is inherent to a perfectly functioning creature within the system.
So if the power wasn't unique, if Adam or the disciples could potentially do similar things, what was the point of the Messiah's miracles then? Why were they so important?
Their importance, according to these sources, was almost entirely about prophetic fulfillment. They mattered only because specific types of miracles healing the blind, the lame, the deaf, preaching good news to the poor were explicitly predicted in the scriptures as signs that would identify the promised Messiah. So the power itself was secondary. What mattered was recognizing the person through the prophesied signs. It was about identity confirmation for an audience expecting specific fulfillments.
Okay, so the miracles were like signposts, pointing to the identity, confirming the scriptures. The real goal wasn't the display of power, but getting people to recognize who he was and then submit to his rule of love.
Precisely. The focus shifts from the wow factor, the miracle, to the aha factor of recognizing the fulfillment of prophecy leading to allegiance. #4, universal revelation and the veiled glory.
Okay, we've got this universe operating under total ownership, foreknowledge factoring in rebellion, and redemption achieved through the second deity becoming a creature. And the last piece is, how does anyone know this? Is this knowledge hidden, or is it somehow built into the system?
The sources are emphatic on this. The knowledge is universally available. It's non-optional, really. They rely heavily on the idea that the Creator made sure creatures could know the divine nature. How? Through creation itself. From the very beginning, the Creator's invisible qualities, eternal power, divine nature, have been clearly revealed in everything that's been made. The complexity, the order, the sheer fact of existence. It's all presented at a level creatures can grasp.
So the universe is like a giant open book testifying to its author.
Exactly. It's an inscribed cosmos. And the purpose of this clear revelation is stated very bluntly. It leaves creatures without excuse. You can't reasonably look at creation, they argue, and not infer a creator. Basic knowledge is considered mandatory.
And yet, people clearly miss it. History is full of people not acknowledging this. Which brings us to the paradox of the Creator's glory being overwhelming, yet somehow hidden or veiled. Isaiah's vision seems key here.
Yes, Isaiah 6 gives us this glimpse of the raw, unshielded reality. Isaiah sees the Creator on this incredibly high throne, the robes filling the entire temple, suggesting a presence far too vast for any container.
And the reaction of the highest angels, the seraphim, is really telling, isn't it?
It absolutely is. These beings, right there at the throne, use 2 wings to cover their faces and 2 to cover their feet. Why? They can't bear to look directly at the full glory. It's too much. And covering the feet implies, humility, acknowledging their created status even in that holy place. It's an act of profound reverence driven by overwhelming power.
And the power isn't just visual, it's almost physically tangible in the description.
Intensely physical. Just the sound of them chanting, "Holy, holy, holy," makes the foundations of the temple shake. The whole place fills with smoke. It conveys that reality itself becomes unstable near that level of concentrated divine presence. But here's the twist the sources emphasize. That same glory isn't just in the temple vision. They conclude it fills the entire earth. It's the very power sustaining time and space, right here, right now. We're literally living within it.
But if it's everywhere, sustaining everything, why don't people see it? Why isn't it obvious?
That's the veiled part. Even though the glory is pervasive, actively holding reality together, not everyone perceives it. And the sources point back to rebellion and spiritual blindness. They say the God of this age has blinded the minds of the unbelieving. So there's this active interference preventing people from seeing the reality that's right in front of them, sustaining their every breath. The broadcast is happening, but the receiver is jammed, you could say.
Wow. Okay, what a complex, comprehensive picture. We went from absolute ownership where even glory is property through the almost negligible status of created beings. We looked at how even the highest rebellion was foreseen and used, and then landed on this incredible act of self-emptying by the co-creator to ultimately prove both love and justice.
Exactly. When you piece together what these sources are arguing, there's just no room left for randomness or accident. It's a universe where every single thing, every choice, every event is known beforehand and woven into a final predetermined outcome, an outcome decided before time even started. And our choices, they're real, they determine the role we play, whether we align with the grace offered or resist it, but the ultimate destination of the entire cosmic story, that's fixed by the owner.
So that leaves us, and you listening, with a really profound thought to wrestle with. If the sources are right, then even the most basic things, feeling hungry and eating, seeing the sunrise, are constant, unavoidable signs of divine grace sustaining you. Given that, and given that the Creator apparently uses all choices, good and bad, to reach a predetermined goal, and that the highest act of power was voluntary surrender, what does it actually mean for you to make a free choice today, knowing that specific choice was already known, accounted for, and factored into the universe's final, unchangeable outcome before the world was even made?